Okay, good morning, everyone. We'll call this meeting to order. I will note that Councillor Wells had a previous commitment today, so he'll be unable to join us. I'll ask if there's any disclosure of pecuniary interest. If at some meeting throughout the meeting you find that you do, please declare it at that time. I have a motion for the adoption of minutes of the regular meeting of Council on October 29th. If I could have a mover and seconder for that. Councillor Kinney and Deputy Mayor Bray. Resolved that the minutes of the regular meeting of Council held on October 29th, 2020 are hereby adopted as circulated. Discussion? Council? Oh, all those in favor? You're eager? Okay, all those in favor? And that is carried. If I can have a mover and seconder for the special meeting of Council minutes from November 12th, that would be Councillor Foster and Councillor Watson. Resolved that the minutes of the special meeting of Council held November 12th, 2020 are hereby adopted as circulated. Discussion? All those in favor? And that is carried. Deputations, presentations, petitions of public meetings, we have none. Comment and question period. I'll ask Madam Clerk if we've had anyone register for that.
Thank you, Your Worship. We don't have anybody registered to speak virtually. However, we've received some comments that I have here to summarize for you.
Okay.
The first comment is from Frank Steele of 44 Masters Lane, and it's regarding item 4.5.2, traffic calming results, Golf Course Road speed tables report, a coordinated committee. There are two comments submitted, or two letters submitted. Comments from November 10th are that he believes the results of the second traffic study are misconstrued due to the speed tubes not being set up in the exact location as during the first traffic study. Most drivers continue to speed despite the installation of speed tables. Drivers are honking at those that do slow down. Trucks and trailers going over the speed tables cause loud banging noises, and the cost of installation would have been better put towards photo radar equipment. The second letter on November 23 repeated some of those comments, but also believes that the introduction of a stop sign could actually make road conditions more deadly. After receiving data collected during the second traffic study as requested, believes that the speed is reduced only between the north and south speed tables. The second traffic study was not as comprehensive or easy to read as the first. He has requested a response from the OPP in regards to traffic management. Would like a proposal made to set up Golf Course Road as a community safety zone. The introduction of photo radar comes at a cost, but believes this should be able to be offset in a short period, and also believes the only solution to stop speeding drivers is photo radar. Our next comments come from Matt Penny of 20 Masters Lane on the same report. His comments are he would like to request stop signs signs are posted along Golf Course Road that prohibit heavy trucks. The area has been inundated with truck traffic, and the noise created from crashing tailgates is unbearable. He says signs are a quick, inexpensive, effective tool to battle the issue. And our third comments are from Glenda and Dave Reynolds at 4 Masters Lane. Same report. They concur with the comments made and agree that this past month has been one of the worst truck traffic and fully support a simple solution that would limit this traffic. And that concludes the comments given to Council. And I just want to note that Council has received a copy of all of the full submissions of all these comments.
Okay, and I'm assuming that they were also circulated to our Public Works Department.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Unfinished business, we have none. Under correspondence, received for information, Simcoe Muskoka District Health Unit report, annual community report. It can have a mover and seconder for this motion, please. Councillor Foster and Councillor Belanger, that Council received the 2019 to 2020 annual community report from the Simcoe Muskoka District Health Unit for information. Is there any discussion on this? All those in favor? And that is carried. There's letters here from a number of municipalities with regard to the unauthorized car rallies. If I could have a mover and seconder, Councillor Watson, Deputy Mayor Bray. The Council received the Town of Halton Hills resolution dated October 13th, 2020. Town of South Bruce Peninsula's letter dated October 23rd, 2020. Northumberland County's resolution dated October 21st, 2020. And the letter dated November 16th, 2020 from the Township of Douro pertaining to unauthorized car rallies and community safety for information. Councillor Foster?
Yes, Your Worship. Two little points here. One, certainly I want to thank the communities that supported our position, to thank them for that. The other part, though, is when you read the text of it, it's not an issue that's limited to Wasaga Beach. Several of these communities it's cited in several communities as to this activity going on, and it's disheartening to a certain extent that this is going on, not only for public safety from speeding and spitting out in parking lots, etc., but also in relation to the COVID-19 thing. So for those who say this was just kids having fun, you go, at what cost? Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Kinney?
Thank you, Worship. I agree with Councillor Foster on all his comments. I do also like to thank the other communities for supporting what we saw. And again, it's not just something isolated to the town of Wasaga Beach. And I think it's up to the provincial government not only to look at what they're doing, but to increase and make some impactful changes on the penalties, so that, yeah, I might come to a place and budget $2,000, but that's not going to be enough. It's going to cost you a lot more, and maybe if we start yanking some people's vehicles permanently for assets, maybe that'll smarten them up. Anyway, thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you. I've read the motion. All those in favor? And that is carried. Our next motion is from the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing. If I can have a mover and seconder for this. Councillor Kinney. Sorry, Councillor Belanger, did your hand? Okay, Councillor Belanger. The Council received the memorandum dated November 16, 2020 from the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing for information. Is there any discussion? Deputy Mayor Bray?
Just more of a question. It talks about the orders, I guess, passed down to bylaw to manage the different policies under the Safe Ontario Act. Should people be calling bylaw if they have a concern about how somebody else is behaving in these COVID-19 times, or should they be calling the OPP? What do they do? Because we occasionally get calls from residents, and you know, I always encourage residents to look after their own safety if they're not comfortable in a situation, to make sure that, you know, they get themselves out of it, they're wearing their mask, they're using their sanitizer, or they're staying home. But there's certainly lots of people that grumble about grocery stores or people not wearing masks, and I'm just not sure where they should be taking those concerns.
Okay. Dina, can you answer that, please?
Thank you, Your Worship. For the most part, I would say they call OPP. We can help to educate, but if people are not wearing masks in the stores and those sorts of things, they should be calling OPP.
Thank you. Okay, I've read the motion. All those in favor? And that is carried. Next is a letter from MPAC. Mover and seconder, please. Councillor Belanger. Deputy Mayor Bray. The Council received the letter dated November 18th, 2020 from MPAC pertaining to MPAC 2021 values and COVID-19 for information. Any discussion? All those in favor? And that is carried. Items requiring action, we have none. 7.3 referred. We have a letter from Canada Infrastructure Program. If I can have a mover and seconder. Councillor Kinney, Deputy Mayor Bray. The Council received the letter from the Ministry of Infrastructure dated November 6, 2020 pertaining to Investing in Canada Infrastructure Program, ICIP, COVID-19 Resilience Infrastructure Stream for information, and further that the letter be referred to the CAO and Director, Finance and Treasurer for review and recommendation to come back for a future meeting. Deputy Mayor Bray?
Thank you. Reading through the list of project eligibility criteria last night, and very excited to see there's a number of things on that list that our project is, or that our town is currently involved with. So looking forward to seeing how we can best spend this money. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, if there's nothing else, all those in favor? And that is carried. Next is a motion regarding Wasaga Conservation Authority. If I could have a mover and seconder, please. Anyone? Councillor Watson and Councillor Kinney. The Council received the letter dated November 13th, 2020 from the NBCA, the letter dated November 19th, 2020 from the Greenbelt Council, and the letter dated November 17th, 2020 from the Conservation Halton pertaining to proposed changes to Conservation Authorities Act and Planning Act puts people, property, and our environment at risk for information, and further that the letter be referred to the planning staff for review and recommendation. Is there any discussion on this? Councillor Foster?
Yes, excuse me, yes, Your Worship. Again, reading both this and the following item, they're referring to Bill, I think it's 229, that the province is bringing ahead. And I suppose if there was any silver lining to COVID is that it got the province to focus on something different than perhaps mutilating nature for housing and other projects. So we're just receiving this for information. I trust staff will have a good solid look and come back and make recommendations to us. But I do think that we neglect the environment at our own cost and peril. Thank you.
Anyone else? All those in favor? And that is carried. We can have a mover and seconder for item 7.3.3, also dealing with conservation. Councillor Kinney, Councillor Watson. The council received the letter dated November 16th, 2020 from the MBCA and the letter dated November 19th, 2020 from the Township of Essa pertaining to Provincial Bill 229, Protect, Support, and Recover from COVID-19 Act Budget Measures 2020 for information, and further that the letter be referred to planning staff for review and recommendation. Discussion? All those in favor? And that is carried. Committee board and staff reports, coordinated committee November 12th minutes. We will go to Councillor Boulanger for community services, please.
Thank you, Mayor Byfolchi. The following are the highlights from the November 12th, 2020 Community Service section of Coordinated Committee. Committee is recommending Council award the contract for tree removal at 544 River Road West to Nadcor Environmental Shredding Limited for $18,000. Staff selected non-core through a request for quotation process as stipulated in the town's procurement policy. Committee is also recommending that Council exempt the town from a permit to undertake the tree clearing in advance of the site plan approval for the community's new Twin Pad Arena and library to be located on this property. Finally, committee is recommending that Council approve financial assistance in the amount of $49,147 to help the Wasaga Beach YMCA reopen on January 4th, 2021, based on the terms outlined in the MOU with the YMCA. Attached to the staff report dated November 12, 2020, the YMCA has operated the fitness and aquatic center at the Recplex since the town built and opened the facility in 2006. The YMCA had to close mid-March when the pandemic started. Reopening will allow modified YMCA programs to return to Wasaga Beach. On behalf of the Community Service section of Coordinated Committee, I ask that Council approve the recommendations in this report.
Okay, thank you. Is there any questions of Councillor Boulanger's report? Councillor Foster?
Quick comment, Your Worship. Since it was kind of highlighted in the review there, I did declare a conflict related to the YMCA, so.
Thank you. And Councillor Boulanger, can I just get you to hit your mic, please? Thank
Thank
you. And we'll move to Public Works. Councillor Foster?
Thank you, Your Worship. The following are the highlights from the November 12th, 2020 Public Works section of the Coordinated Committee. Committee received the traffic calming report for Duncarron Avenue speed humps and the Golf Course Road speed tables for information. As per council direction, staff arranged for temporary speed humps on Duncarron and permanent speed tables on Golf Course Road. The town installed these earlier in the year. The town conducted speed counts at both locations to see the effectiveness of these devices. The manager of engineering services noted in his report to committee that both traffic calming measures have reduced the average speed of motorists at the two locations. Staff recommended speed humps be reinstalled on Duncarron in 2021 to mitigate speeding and stated that speed tables work best as a permanent solution on Golf Course Road. In addition, the committee received the Pedestrian Crosswalk Minimum Design Standard Report, which recommends converting the existing pedestrian crosswalk on River Road East at John Street to a higher standard of crosswalk that would include rectangular flashing beacons, clearly signifying to motorists this is a controlled pedestrian crosswalk. The report also recommends the installation of a pedestrian crosswalk at River Road East and Belva Street. The cost to upgrade the one crosswalk is $6,800 and the cost to upgrade the other is $8,400. These costs are accounted for in the proposed 2021 Public Works budget and would be advanced next spring. Finally, the committee received the Automated Speed Enforcement Program initial background report for information. In December of 2019, the province allowed municipalities to start operating automated speed enforcement systems in community safety zones if they chose to do so. The systems use a camera and speed measurement device that can automatically detect the speed of a vehicle and compare that speed to the designated threshold. The information can be used to issue a provincial offences notice to a registered owner of the vehicle. Staff continue to research the automated speed enforcement program. On behalf of Public Works, I ask that committee approve the recommendations in this report. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions of Councillor Foster? Deputy Mayor Bray?
Not necessarily of Councillor Foster, but the comments that we received today related to the speed tables installed on Golf Course Road, will they be referred back to staff for follow-up?
The comments that were shared at the beginning of the meeting, staff do have. Maybe I'll look to our CAO what this is with regard to the Golf Course Road and the speed tables.
Thank you, Worship, members of council. We have our manager of engineering here, Mike Pensavero, who is the project lead on the project.
Actually,
And-
he's left the room.
Oh, pardon me.
It's magic.
Yeah, he was here. So yes, the answer would be yes. That correspondence would be referred back to our engineering staff for their review.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And then further, one of the comments in recent emails was the number of dump trucks that have been using that road in recent days or recent week. And I just wonder if bylaw or OPP, someone could follow up while it's actually happening. Because if they truly are speeding, then I think it's something that by the time it sometimes gets through our process, the project is stopped and they're no longer speeding. Where if we were to halt them and maybe ticket them on day 2 or 3, we might alter their behaviors.
And I think those comments can be shared with OPP, but I also encourage the residents to reach out to the OPP directly, because sometimes coming through the town, it takes more time, and if they could let them know as well, I think direct reporting to them would be good too. Councillor Watson?
Thank you, Your Worship. I'd just like to see a resolution one way or the other. It's definitely a problem area, and any kind of signage, photo radar, anything to alleviate the problem, I think would be in our best interest in the municipality. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Kinney?
Thank you, Worship. Now, I too believe that there is issues down Golf Course Road. And again, I ask individuals to not only reach out to the town, but to the OPP, because I think in partnership we might be able to help out. But one thing that I think people don't realize, but when they do reach out to the OPP, ask for the incident number, phone them back a couple days and ask what they've done. That's just simple transparency and accountability. So please keep that and think about that. Thank you, Your Worship.
Okay, thank you. Anything else? Okay, we'll move to Development Committee. Deputy Mayor Bray.
Thank you. Following are the highlights of the November 12th Development Services section of Coordinated Committee. Committee is recommending that Council pass a bylaw to remove the H holding symbol from blocks 53 and 54 in Plan 51M 1158, first available council meeting once all of the related conditions are met. This applies to the Elm Wasaga development in the east end of town. Elm is planning to build a total of 39 residential townhomes on the parcel of land known as Block 53. Block 54 will consist of 53 detached homes and 37 townhomes. Committee is also recommending that Council pass a bylaw to remove the H holding symbol from a property at 3219 Mosley Street once the related conditions are fulfilled. Removing the holding symbol will allow building permits to be issued for 10 homes. As well, Committee is recommending Council receive for information a report from the Senior Planner regarding a request for pre-servicing agreement by Zancor Homes. Property owner is seeking a pre-servicing agreement to carry out infrastructure construction for the first phase of their 170-unit detached home development on a triangular parcel of land bound by Mapleside Drive to the north, Bramblewood Drive to the south, 58th Street south to the west. The property has a draft plan approval for a plan of subdivision. In addition, the committee is recommending that council receive the senior planner's report regarding a request for a pre-servicing agreement by Haymount Investments Limited. The proponent's property is bound by Beachway Trail to the west, Sandy Coast Crescent to the south, Stonebridge Boulevard to the east, and a stormwater management pond to the north. The property enjoys draft plan approval for the creation of 48 townhomes. The property owner is seeking a pre-servicing agreement to carry out infrastructure work on the site. Also, the committee is recommending council receive the senior planner's report regarding a request for a site preparation agreement by Sunnydale Estates Limited. Subject lands are at 725 Sunnydale Road South. The lands form the north portion of the Sunnydale Trail secondary plan. The subject lands currently have draft plan approval for a plan of subdivision allowing 1,067 homes, plus a block for up to 73 apartment dwelling units, 5 future lots for additional homes, plus blocks for potentially 2 schools, parks, and neighborhood infrastructure. The property owner is seeking a site preparation agreement to carry out activities on the lands to prepare them for development. In relation to the property, the committee is also recommending council receive a report about a request from the developer to clear trees on a portion of the land that's required for sanitary sewer and water infrastructure. The committee is recommending to council that the town enter into a subdivision agreement with Wasaga Beach Ventures, Inc. for a draft plan of subdivision at 3219 Mosley Street, and that the mayor and clerk be authorized to sign the agreement once conditions are met. The project involves 10 detached homes. As council and the public can see, there is plenty of development activity happening in our community. I want to thank staff for the great work they are doing, processing applications, and working with our development community. Finally, the committee is recommending that council receive the update report on retail cannabis in Wasaga Beach. The committee is recommending council approve allowing retail cannabis operations in the community, and that the Alcohol and Gaming Commission of Ontario be advised of such. The town consulted with the community on whether the town should allow retail cannabis operations, and the consultation found 74.6% of the people supported opting in. On behalf of the Development Services section of Coordinated Committee, I ask that council approve the recommendations in this report. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments on this report? Councillor Kinney?
Thank you, Worship. I just want to reach out and thank our Economical Development Officer, Tyler King. I asked for some clarification on whether or not they reached out with regards to our neighboring communities on the cannabis retail issue, and he came back with a fairly complete report and sent it to all council. I want to thank him for that. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you. If there's nothing else, we will have Deputy Mayor Bray also do the general government, please.
Thank you. Reading this on behalf of Councillor Wells. The following are the highlights from November 12, 2020, General Government Section of Coordinated Committee. The committee is recommending that council allow the Child and Youth Advocacy Center of Simcoe, Muskoka to use the Community Policing Office at 544 River Road West as required on a temporary basis to provide support to local youth, and that the organization be allowed to use the space at no cost. Representatives of the center would use the space to investigate various issues involving the welfare of local youth. Use of the space would be for a 3 to 4 month period as a pilot to determine the viability. The committee is also recommending that council authorize the extension of the lease agreement with Bell Mobility for the tower at 3050 Mosley Street. This tower is next to Fire Hall Number 2. Bell has leased the space for a number of years. Under the new agreement, Bell would lease the location for a 5-year period ending in September 2025. The rent would be $10,000 annually. The agreement also contains provisions for extending the lease between Bell and the town for 3 successive 5-year terms. And the revised contract has a provision that permits the town to install its wide area network hardware in the future to accommodate expansion of town facilities in the West End. The town will also be able to sublease. Further, the committee is recommending that council authorize the town to renew its current Bell Mobility Service Agreement with WPCI as outlined in the related staff report dated November 12th for an additional 5-year term. The agreement supports cellular devices used by the town. The current agreement is due for renewal December the 1st. The committee is also recommending that council approve an amendment to the doctor recruitment program to cover situations where doctors new to town take over existing practices. To address the costs in taking over an existing practice, staff recommend introducing a prorated formula as outlined in the related November 12th staff report. Under the existing program, the town provides up to $65,000 to physicians setting up new practices in town. Finally, committee is recommending council accept the final draft of the master parking study for the beachfront area prepared by Tatham Engineering Limited. The purpose of the study was to undertake a comprehensive review of the town's current and future parking requirements for the beachfront area. Tatham consultant Michael Cullip presented the draft study at the October 15th Committee of the Whole meeting. On behalf of the General Government Section of Coordinated Committee, I ask that council approve the recommendations in this report.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments on this report? Okay, if I can have a mover and seconder for these reports, Councillor Kinney and Councillor Foster. The council received the Coordinated Committee reports of November 12th, 2020 as circulated and approves all actions contained therein. All those in favor? That is carried. Next is the Committee of the Whole budget minutes of November 12th. The following are the highlights from the November 12th Committee of the Whole as Budget Committee meeting. The committee received draft 2 of the 2021 municipal budget for information. In preparing the second draft, staff made payroll adjustments, added 1 new permanent facility staff position and 2 seasonal municipal law enforcement positions, deferred some projects, and revised budget estimates in various areas. The proposed tax rate increase now stands at 3.46%, a small decrease compared to draft 1. For a home assessed at $330,000, this translates to $1,911.92 in the municipal portion of taxes for 2021, an extra $5.33 per month compared to 2020. The budget continues to include significant investments in a number of areas, including facilities, roads and bridges, water and wastewater infrastructure, transit, physician recruitment, the fire department, playground structures, and planning studies that move the municipality forward. For draft 2, the operating budget sits at $42.4 million, with a $15,740 tax-supported increase over draft 1, and the capital budget is $52 million, with a $102,180 tax-supported increase over draft 1. At the next budget meeting on December 3rd, staff will present the third draft of the budget and the 4-year operating and 10-year capital forecasts. These are important documents as they help set the financial stage for upcoming years. During the meeting, the committee also received a presentation on the proposed rates and fees for 2021. The committee is recommending council approve a small number of fee increases as outlined in the staff report dated November 12, 2020. Staff also presented the 2020 water and wastewater rate study to ensure that water and wastewater rates are meeting provincial requirements to cover the cost of operating the system and provide for reserves for future asset replacement requirements. It is recommended that council implement a 1.5% base rate increase and a 1.5% consumption rate increase to water and wastewater rates. The new rates would result in an increase for the average residential home of $7.13 per year. If council approves the proposed increases, staff will draft a bylaw to implement the changes. Council would consider the bylaw on December 22nd. Also during the Committee of the Whole meeting, representatives of Hemson Consulting presented the development charge study to members of committee and the public. Provincial law enables the town to collect development fees from developers. These fees or development charges pay for new infrastructure requirements related to growth. The town is also required to have a development charge background study prepared at least every 5 years to outline the rationale behind the development charge rates being proposed. The committee is recommending that council receive the background study and the related capital program for information. The committee is also recommending that council set aside $5,000 in the 2021 operating budget to begin the community art initiatives in Wasaga Beach. The committee is also recommending to council that $7,688 in surplus from the 2020 National Youth Week expenses line be carried forward and left in reserves to fund the 2021 Community Art Initiatives budget for a Rainbow Crosswalk project at Moseley and 39th Street South, with a one-time additional community art expense of $7,500 for 2021 National Youth Week celebrations. Further, committee recommends to council that issue a request for proposals to seek qualified proponents to offer recreational gymnastics at the Recplex using town-owned gymnastic equipment, and that an 8-week day camp be included in the 2021 operating budget with $25,600 for both revenues and expenses at a net cost of $0 to the town. In addition, committee received the 2021 Special Events COVID-19 Contingency Budget as information. Due to COVID, there are many unknowns pertaining to events in 2021. To plan for the future, committee directed staff to allocate a minimum of 75% of all 2021 budget surpluses from the community events and beachfront events budgets to reserves, to be used in future years to lessen the impact of reinstating staff and programs. Finally, the committee is recommending to council that it approve a budget increase of $74,468 for the 2021 arena budget to support the addition of one full-time permanent position to assist with sanitizing and maintenance requirements at town facilities. This investment will help support additional cleaning required due to the pandemic. On behalf of Committee of the Whole, I ask that council approve the recommendations in this report. Is there any discussion on this? Councillor Belanger?
Thank you, Mayor Byfolchi. Yes, just related to the development charge study, during that meeting, council had quite a bit of discussion related to the 42% proposed residential increase and 30% commercial townwide, and then a separate one for beach area one. At that meeting, there was some discussion about a potential phase-in. So I was just going to make the recommendation to our CAO that when this comes back to council, whether the treasurer could prepare a couple of options for phase-in, just so that we can better understand the impact on residential property tax, because the treasurer had raised their hand in that meeting and said that it would impact the 3.46 in 2021 and the projected 5-year plan, depending on the phase-in. So it would just prepare us to more quickly make a decision if there were a couple options available to look at. Thank you.
So that is normal process that staff would bring a few options to council for consideration in that, and I believe that that's the intent, but Mr. CAO, if you could confirm that.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yes, that was the direction that I took from the Committee of the Whole meeting, that council wanted to consider some options with respect to the implementation of the new development charge. The treasurer and I have had a brief conversation about the options. She's also had conversations with our consultant, Hempson, and some options are being prepared. We have a meeting scheduled next week where we're going to go through those options and then finalize a report back to council with some options and recommendations to come forward.
Okay, thank you. Can I have a mover and seconder for this motion, please? Councillor Foster, Deputy Mayor Bray. The council received the Committee of the Whole Budget Report of November 12th, 2020 as circulated and approves all actions contained therein. All those in favor? That is carried. If I can have a mover and seconder for the accounts, please. Councillor Kinney, Deputy Mayor Bray. The council approved the October 1st to 31st, 2020 accounts in the amount of $3,913,311.83. Any discussion? All those in favor? And that is carried. Next, we have a report from the Senior Special Events Coordinator. If I could have a mover and seconder. Councillor Foster, Councillor Belanger. The council received the Christmas holiday season in Wasaga Beach update for information. Is there any discussion on this? We have Angela at the table. If there's questions, or did you have something that you wanted to speak to, and with the public watching, you can advertise what you've got up and coming.
Sure. Thank you, Your Worship. So we all know that this year's Christmas celebrations are going to look a little different. So we've decided through the town and all departments to do a couple different activities and things that the public can enjoy. So we have our holiday lights and displays self-guided tour. That's an interactive map that will be posted on our website. There's still time for people, for businesses, residents, apartment people who have windows or balconies that want to decorate, to let us know their addresses so we can add those to the map. The map will then go live on December 1st on our website. I'd also like to thank the Parks Department for all of their continued efforts in beautifying our community and making it a very holiday cheerful areas throughout the town. We will be running a coloring contest on our town's website. It will be under the events and festivals page. You'll see the banner for the holidays in Wasaga. That's where all the information about our holiday planning will be. The food and toy drive is once again happening. The fire department is hosting their food and toy drive together with the Connect Club and the Ministerial Food Bank. They will be at the Walmart on November 28th and December 6th between 11 and 3 p.m. collecting donations. They were not able to secure any dates with the Superstore, but they will also be at the Santa drive-thru, which I'll explain a little bit later. And donation bins will also be available throughout town. We ask that donations are made before December 20th if at all possible, but some bins will be out until the 23rd. The library has a whole list of community and holiday activities. They have community art projects, their Elf in the Library, holiday stories. They're accepting letters to Santa until December 10th. That way you can get your reply back. They're doing craft decorating up, and those kits will be available after December 11th. Stonebridge Town Center is having their virtual Santa visits this year instead of their typical Santa Castle. So information is now available on stonebridgetowncenter.com for anybody who wants to book a virtual Santa visit. And then lastly, we are doing the Santa Claus drive-through at the Recplex. So that will be December 5th, from 3 till 7, December 8th and 10th from 5 until 7. Vehicles, it'll only be open to vehicles, no pedestrians allowed. We'll enter at the lights, go through the route that we have delineated within the parking lot. You can then drive past Santa, say hi, wave, but you must remain in your vehicle. And then the fire department will also be on site collecting food and toys for the food and toy drive. We wish everybody a safe and happy holiday season.
Thanks, Ange. I know planning events during COVID isn't easy, so kudos to you and your team. Councillor Kinney?
Thank you, Worship. And yes, Angela, good thinking outside of the box. I just have a couple of questions, and some of you might be able to answer, possibly some you can't. And that's no worries. With the drive-through for Santa at the Recplex, are we anticipating drive-by, pause, hi Santa, that kind of a format?
Yes.
Okay, and will there be people there kind of encouraging, okay, you've been there for 5 minutes, can you move on?
Yeah, we will have staff and volunteers.
Okay, thank you. And then you mentioned vehicles only. I'm just wondering whether or not, because we have, and I can just reflect on the many times we've had the Christmas parade going down Moseley and the Thorns people that come out. I would imagine a portion of those don't have vehicles. Was there any thought on, I don't know, I'm thinking outside the box, and Kevin's probably gonna cringe, but about having like one of the town buses available to pick up individuals that may not have the ability to see Santa? Or are we going to maybe have Santa go on a road trip? I don't know. But those are just some of my comments, just for your thoughts, please. Thank you, Worship.
Thank you. Councillor Watson?
Thank you, Your Worship. Well, I'm certainly going to miss sitting on Santa's knee this year and getting my photo taken. But I was just wondering if we should have a basket or someone taking letters to Santa from the people who are going past Santa in their cars. I've seen that at a couple other ones. So if the children have a letter that they like to get to Santa, that we could receive it at least and put it in the basket. Just a thought with it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Is there anything else? Okay, thanks, Ange. I've already read the motion, so all those in favor? And that is carried. Next is the 2021 meeting calendar. If I could have a mover and seconder, please. Councillor Kinney, Councillor Boulanger. The council received the 2021 meeting calendar for information. Any discussion? Councillor Foster?
Yes, Your Worship. I just, as this last year was a bit of a adventure in holding meetings and how they're run and all that, I'm hoping that should we find ourselves on the back side of this, that we can go back and re-examine the meeting schedule to allow, times and locations and attendance by more of the public other than through streaming us somewhere. So this should be a suggested schedule, but leave room for improvement if we can say goodbye to COVID.
Absolutely, and I see Dina shaking her head. I know that we move with the times as things are announced, and we'll do the same with our schedule. So, okay, I've read the motion. All those in favor? And that is carried. Next is a very long motion, probably the longest I've ever seen, Dina. But it's a good one, and I do want to say kudos to you and others who have been working on this. I think it addresses a lot of outdated legislation. So I'll give the floor to you if you wanted to speak to it.
Thank you, Your Worship, and I do apologize for a long motion. There's a lot to say, and we probably could say more, quite honestly. The advocacy for this began as a result of administrators of the Municipal Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act expressing frustrations and difficulties in processing requests for information. The legislation is 30 years old and has not been updated in keeping with significant changes in government operations, public expectations, accountability, and transparency measures, as well as technology and administrative practices. A committee was formed with a group of clerks that felt something could be done to advocate for a review of the aging legislation and has been working over the past 14 months to research best practices, gather experiences, identify issues, and put together a recommendation for reform. We began presenting our results over the last 3 months, with one of our first presentations being to the Honorable Lisa Thompson, Minister of Government and Consumer Services. And following this presentation, we were encouraged to advocate through municipalities and our local MPPs. The biggest issues we see are the demand that these information requests put on the operations of the municipality, inefficient administrative practices, and the use of outdated technologies, the limited ability to charge fees resulting in the taxpayer having to make up the shortfall, the threshold to deem a request to be frivolous or vexatious being too high, as well as harassment of administrators with little defensibility, and the fact that the requester's identity is confidential. Some examples of these issues are included in the presentation that we've attached to the report. And I can say that when our offices receive a request, other work has to be put aside to deal with the request, and when we receive multiple requests, it can severely impact our work plans. There are so many administrators of the legislation that relate to these messages and want to support the request for reforms. They have asked that the group provide a motion to take to their councils and circulate to their local MPPs and Minister Thompson. We really need the province to help us with these issues, and we're hoping that by continuing to talk about the issues and raise them to as many people as possible, that we'll get the right people listening and affect change. That concludes my presentation.
Okay, thank you. And as the chair of the regional government review at the county, I think this is something that we should be looking at there, as well as some sort of support for it. Before I read this book, I'll open it up if there's any comments or questions. Councillor Kinney.
Thank you, Worship, and I want to thank Dina and her peers around the general area. Yeah, there's a lot of outdated provincial legislation out there, and it just takes time for us to identify it and try and move it into the 2000s and keep it out of the last century. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Councillor Foster.
Yes, Your Worship, and I also want to point out this isn't a Wasaga Beach challenge. This is a province-wide challenge, and perhaps Canada-wide or wherever. It's not an attempt to squelch transparency or integrity of the process. It's just like Councillor Kinney said. It's a matter of streamlining and efficiency and getting up to date with where things are. So I do appreciate that Dina has sat on that committee, and as have administrators from a variety of municipalities in the area and across the province. So just to be clear that this isn't a Wasaga Beach, this is a province-wide challenge.
Thank you very much for pointing that out, because I know that there will be some who will choose to say this is a Wasaga Beach opportunity to squash people's rights to speak, and that is certainly not the case at all. So if I could have a mover and seconder for this, Councillor Kinney, Councillor Watson, that the following motions be passed in support of a request to review and reform the Municipal Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act. Whereas the Municipal Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act, RSO 1990, MPIFA, I can never say that, MFI-PPA, dates back 30 years. And whereas municipalities, including the town of Wasaga Beach, practice and continue to promote open and transparent government operations, actively disseminate information, and routinely disclose public documents upon request outside of MPIFA, process, and whereas government operations, public expectations, technologies, and legislation surrounding accountability and transparency have dramatically changed, and MPIFA has not advanced in line with these changes, and whereas the creation, storage, and utilization of records has changed significantly, and the municipal clerk of the municipality is responsible for records and information management programs as prescribed by the Municipal Act 2001, and whereas Regulation 823 under MPIFA continues to reference antiquated technology and does not adequately provide for cost recovery, and these financial shortfalls are borne by the municipal taxpayer. And whereas the threshold to establish frivolous and/or vexatious requests is unreasonably high and allows for harassment of staff and members of municipal councils and unreasonably affects the operations of a municipality. And whereas the Act fails to recognize how multiple requests from an individual, shortage of staff resources, or the expense of producing a record due to its size, number, or physical location does not allow for time extensions to deliver requests and unreasonably affects the operations of the municipality. And whereas the name of the requester is not permitted to be disclosed to anyone other than the person processing the access request, and this anonymity is used by requesters to abuse the MPIFA process and does not align with the spirit of openness and transparency embraced by municipalities. And whereas legal professionals use MPIFA to gain access to information to launch litigation against institutions where other remedies exist, and whereas there are limited resources to assist administrators or requesters to navigate the legislative process. And whereas reform is needed to address societal and technological changes in addition to global privacy concerns and consistency acts across provincial legislation, be it resolved that the Ministry of Government and Consumer Services be requested to review the MPIFA and consider recommendations as follows. That MPIFA assign the municipal clerk or designate to be head under the Act. 2, that MPIFA be updated to address current and emerging technologies. 3, that MPIFA regulate the need for consistent routine disclosure practices across institutions. 4, that the threshold for frivolous and/or vexatious actions be reviewed and take into consideration the community and available resources in which it is applied. That the threshold, 5, that the threshold for frivolous and/or vexatious also consider the anonymity of requesters, their abusive nature and language in requests to ensure protection from harassment as provided for in the Occupational Health and Safety Act. 6, that the application and scalability of fees be designed to ensure taxpayers are protected from persons abusing the access to information process. And number 7, that the administrative practices implied or required under the Act, including those of the IPC, be reviewed and modernized. And 8, that the integrity of the Act be maintained to protect personal privacy and transparent governments. All right. Any further discussion? All those in favor? And that is carried. I will not read it again. I was running out of air. Okay. Next, we have resolutions with regard to the shareholder of Geosans. So if I could have a mover and seconder for this. Deputy Mayor Bray and Councillor Kinney. And I will take this opportunity to thank those who submitted their applications for a vacancy that we had. And we expect in 2022 that there will be other opportunities for people to join the board. So hopefully those people will consider again at that time. So it's moved by Deputy Mayor Bray, seconded by Councillor Kinney. The following resolutions signed by the sole shareholder of the corporation are hereby passed pursuant to the provisions of the Business Corporations Act, Ontario, the Act. Appointment of directors. Whereas Peter Wilmot tendered his resignation as Director of Wasaga Distribution Inc. effective January 2021, and whereas the shareholder wishes to extend terms of current directors of the corporation and its subsidiary boards, accordingly it is resolved that 1, the terms of Neil Hamilton and Trent Gow as directors of the corporation are hereby extended until the meeting of the shareholder to be held in January 2022 or until their successors are elected or appointed. 2, Robin Plum is hereby elected or appointed as Director of Wasaga Distribution, Inc., effective January 2021 to hold office until the meeting of the shareholder to be held in January 2022 or until their successor is elected or appointed. 3, the terms of Cal Patterson and Morley Berkovich as directors of Wasaga Distribution, Inc. are hereby extended until the meeting of the shareholder to be held in January 2022 or until their successors are elected or appointed. 4, Andy Ferguson is hereby elected or appointed as a director of Wasaga Resources Services, Inc., effective January 2021 to hold office until the meeting of the shareholder to be held in January 2022 or until their successor is elected or appointed. 5, the terms of Jason Karklinks and Ron Anderson as directors of the Wasaga Resources, Inc. is hereby extended until the meeting of the shareholder to be held in January 2024 or until their successors are elected or appointed. Any discussion? All those in favor? And that is carried. And next, we will move to the CAO's verbal report with regard to COVID. Mr. CAO.
Thank you, Worship. As per normal, I'm joined today by our communications manager and our deputy fire chief, who will be providing updates from the province and from the Simcoe Muskoka District Health Unit, and then I'll follow with an update from the command team. Thank you.
Good morning, Your Worship and members of council. I have 9 points that I just wanted to provide as an update today. I'll start with the most recent one. November 23rd, the provincial government announced that it has deployed a new COVID-19 rapid tests to provide faster results in regions of high transmission and rural remote areas. As an additional tool to keep essential workers safe, rapid tests will be used to screen staff in long-term care homes and select workplaces. Ontario's received roughly 98,000 ID Now tests. They are initially being used in hospitals and assessment centers in rural and remote communities, as well as to test people as part of early outbreak investigation in hotspot regions. These tests continue to be distributed in Simcoe, Muskoka, southwestern Ontario, and eastern Ontario. The program will be expanded throughout December. Also on November 23rd, the province announced a new Minister's COVID-19 Vaccine Distribution Task Force. The task force will advise the government's development and implementation of an immunization program, including the ethical, timely, and effective distribution of COVID-19 vaccines in Ontario. Rick Hillier, former Chief of the Defence Staff for the Canadian Forces, will chair that task force. On November 23rd, the government said that Dr. David Williams has agreed to remain as Ontario's Chief Medical Officer of Health. November 20th, the province said that it was moving certain public health unit regions to new levels, including moving Toronto and Peel to lockdown. Our region moved to orange, known as restrict. These necessary steps are being taken to limit community transmission of COVID, and they came into effect on the 23rd. November 20th, the province extended all orders currently in place under the Reopening Ontario Act. November 19th, the province said it is investing over $2.2 million through the Ontario Together Fund to provide small businesses with free, tailored financial advice and online training to help them make informed financial decisions. This information has been shared with our economic development team, and they are going to relay it to the business community. On November 16th, the government announced the establishment of Supply Ontario, a new centralized procurement agency that will enable a whole-of-government approach to purchasing goods and services. Supply Ontario will ensure that schools, hospitals, and the entire public sector have the critical supplies and equipment they need to keep individuals and families safe. And that concludes my report.
Are there any questions for Mike? Councillor Kinney?
Thank you, Your Worship. Mike, I'm just wondering, I know people, when they start looking at the different grades, green, yellow, orange, do we have somewhere on our town website that nicely explains what you can do and what you can't do, group sizes and stuff like that? Thank you, Your Worship.
Mike?
Through you, Councillor, on our COVID-19 information page, we don't have that specific element, but we do have a link that directs you to the health unit, which speaks to all those different color codes. We can certainly look at adding that information to the page, though.
Thank you, Worship. If you can do that, that would be great, because I think for some of our population, if you get to one site, why do I have to go to another site? Why can't I get everything there? And I'm not saying the town itself is a one-stop for everything, but something like that might just trigger, oh, okay, that's what we've got to do.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you, Worship.
Thank you. Anyone else? Councillor Foster?
Yes, Your Worship. As much as I want to agree with Mark on that, I'm not sure I do. And the town has a duty to provide access to information for people related to this, but I don't want in any way the town to be construed as being expert on it. The Ministry of Health and the public health people, so a link, so if you go there and you hit a button that says you want more about COVID, none of us are the experts in this. I do think that a direct link going to the actual source is the correct method. It's otherwise, and it's not that we would speculate, but when you go on to social media, people are giving all kinds of stuff. We might as well get people to the actual source who have the expertise and information available. Just my opinion. I'll leave it to staff. I know we can access it through the website, so.
Mike, did you wish to speak to that?
Yes, Your Worship. One solution we might consider is building some language on the COVID-19 page that identifies where you will find that color designation.
We'll leave that with you to make sure it's, okay? All right, if there's nothing else, we will invite our Deputy Chief here. Thank you, Mike. We're all getting very good at cleaning.
Thank you. Good morning, Your Worship, members of council. Globally, there are more than 59.8 million cases of COVID-19, or have been more than 59.8 cases of COVID-19, with a total of 1.4 million deaths. Nationally, we have experienced 342,000 cases, and we have surpassed 11,600 deaths. Provincially, there have been 110,000 cases. This includes 3,576 deaths. The current number of Ontario residents with admitted to hospital due to COVID-19 is 534, and this includes 159 that are admitted to ICUs. There are currently 102 outbreaks in long-term care homes, and to date there have been 2,223 residents and 8 staff members in long-term care homes die. Ontario has now conducted just over 5.9 million COVID-19 tests. Within Simcoe Muskoka, the current status of the Simcoe Muskoka District Health Unit COVID-19 monitoring dashboard is currently yellow. Now this is not to be confused with the provincial framework that, as we know, has placed us in an orange level of restriction. This is the health unit's internal monitoring dashboard, which is a green, yellow, red metric. In Simcoe Muskoka, there have been 1,938 reported cases, including 218 active cases and 52 deaths, and there are currently 15 individuals that are hospitalized in our area. The 7-day moving average of COVID-19 for Simcoe Muskoka is 30.2, and our percent positivity is now 2.1. There are currently 12 active outbreaks within our region, and this number includes 4 schools, 2 long-term care homes, and 2 retirement homes. Locally within Wasaga Beach, we've now had 35 positive cases, including 1 death, and there are currently 3 individuals who are recovering at home. The most recent cases locally occurred on November the 23rd, and the vast majority of Wasaga Beach's cases have occurred due to community transmission, close contact, and travel. I did want to mention that yesterday, Dr. Charles Gardner has released what he's called a special statement to all residents of the County of Simcoe and District of Muskoka. And just to summarize his letter, I think it's important for our residents to understand what he is advising us. He goes on to say that we're currently facing a critical time in our fight against this disease. Our local data indicates that the COVID-19 cases in our area is at the highest rates to date, and that provincial projections state that we are on track for much higher disease levels unless we take more action now. The key factors contributing to the transmission of local cases are close and unprotected contact between individuals in both work and social settings. In fact, since September, we've observed a substantial increase in workplace transmission, which often results in outbreaks and in related household clusterings. So he is asking all of our residents to take the following immediate actions. Limit close contact to those within your household. Maintain 2 meters of physical distance from others. Wear face coverings indoors and outdoors if physical distancing cannot be maintained. He also has a strong recommendation that individuals and families from higher transmission areas should avoid travel to lower transmission areas. And examples of this are individuals who are currently in the gray and red zones should not be traveling except for essential purposes to areas that are currently in green, yellow, and orange. He finally has the general advice of stay home when you have symptoms, wash your hands thoroughly, cover your mouth when you cough, download the COVID-19 Alert mobile app, and of course get tested if you do have symptoms. He acknowledges that it has been a very challenging time for our community. There has been impacts emotionally, physically, and financially on everyone, but he does end the letter with some positiveness, noting that the arrival of an effective vaccine should occur during 2021, and this is a cause for optimism. In fact, he stated yesterday in his live Facebook update that he is hopeful that we will have herd immunity within Ontario by late 2021, and this will only be done if approximately 70 to 75% of the population do receive the vaccine. And that concludes my update, unless there's any other questions.
All right, thank you. Any questions of Craig? No? Okay,
Awesome.
thank you. Back to you, Mr. CIO.
Thanks, Mike, and thanks, Craig. Your worship, members of council, I'll provide the command team update. Excuse me, we've had 2 meetings since our last update, and I'm going to cover 5 items for council and the public this morning. First item has to do with council and staff holiday celebrations. The command team discussed the town and staff Christmas party, and it's being recommended excuse me, that council allocate the funds typically spent on the Christmas party to the various departments so that they can organize workplace Christmas luncheons within the parameters established by the health unit. Next topic is review and implementation of health unit guidelines. Command team has reviewed and implemented guidelines pertaining to the following town functions. Excuse me. Multiplex facilities, outdoor ice surfaces, toy drives, visits with Santa, and recreation programs. Excuse me. The next topic is the response framework, which the Deputy Chief has already outlined. The province continues to update its response framework and issue new guidelines. Simcoe Muskoka is in the orange restrict category. The Deputy Chief has developed a Wasaga Beach response framework highlighting the impact on town functions, and this has been circulated internally. This will continue to be updated as the province updates its framework. And we've looked at that from a standpoint in terms of town functions only, and as been alluded to earlier, the orange or restrict has multiple implications across various sectors, retail, hospitality, et cetera, et cetera. So we've been focusing on the town impact so that everybody that is connected with the municipality understands what those limitations are. As members of council are aware, Toronto and Peel regions are in lockdown, and York region is in the red category. Yesterday, the Chief Medical Officer of Health sent a letter to municipalities recommending that municipalities prohibit access to the recreation facilities to individuals whose primary residence lies within the red or control area or gray lockdown area. So the command team had an extensive discussion on this recommendation due to the number of seasonal residents in Wasaga Beach. So far, outside bookings at our recreation facilities, including our arena, has not been an issue in Wasaga Beach, but it is an issue in the municipalities in South Simcoe. And so I think that from that perspective, the Chief Medical Officer of Health has issued this directive. In the end, the command team has agreed to accept the Medical Officer of Health's advice, as it has done on all matters, and is prohibiting access to people from the red or gray lockdown areas to our recreation facilities. And the last point I wanted to speak to is with respect to spectators at the arena. To date, the town, in cooperation with minor hockey, the figure skating club, and other sanctioned organizations, has implemented a one parent per participant spectator rule at the arena. This has worked well for the most part, with the appropriate social distancing in place. As the area has moved to the orange or restrict category, it was deemed necessary to review this rule. The command team has decided to allow one parent per child for the youngest participants to age 8 to supervise their child. For older children, parents will not be permitted to be spectators and will be asked to watch their child's participation on the live cam that we're in the process of setting up. They can help tie skates, but will ask to be a spectator outside the arena. And this again is to adhere to the orange or restrict category and to limit the number of people that are congregating at the arena. Your Worship, that concludes my update on the command team activities, and I'd be happy to take any questions that members of council may have.
Thank you, and I'd just like to say, I know that there will be some residents and parents who will be upset with the rules surrounding, that situation. But the intent is to follow the rules and try and still allow opportunities for our kids to get into the arena, skate, have a little bit of that interaction, and so we're hoping that we'll have cooperation with that. I think the other thing that we need to point out is that while you're not allowed in the facility to spectate, we also ask that you don't all congregate out in the parking lot and do it there. The whole intent is to really follow the rules and keep our distance and hopefully prevent us from going into a red zone or a gray zone and having to totally shut the facility down. With that, I'll open it up for questions of CAO. Councillor Watson?
Thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, there's a lot of anxiety and anger, especially in the lockdown zones of, especially restaurants, small owner-operated stores that have to shut down, and looking at the larger stores that have a grocery component that can stay open. And it's very tough on a lot of small businesses, and just follow the lead of maybe Mayor Tory of Toronto that everyone try and order takeout from our local restaurants and that, curbside pickup, whatever situation that they have, that we try and support our local businesses in any way we can during these very, very tough times, especially this time of the year. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? I know I have the motion in our package was to receive your update for information, but there is another motion that with dealing with the staff Christmas parties and things like that I will read and look for support for. The motion reads that the council received the November 25th, 2020 verbal COVID-19 update from the CAO for information, and further that council approved that the funds typically reserved for the staff Christmas party be equally allocated to the various departments based on staff composition, and that council confirmed the decisions made by the CAO on the advice of the command team and the Simcoe Muskoka District Health Unit outlined to council on November 25th, 2020. So you're looking for support to reallocate because it's Christmas funds, it's money, so he's looking for support from council to do that. Councillor Finney?
Your Worship, do you want me to be, to start it, or do you want me to make a comment? Because I can make a comment and do both.
You can do it. Go. Let's hear your comment.
Thank you, Your Worship. No, I think it's a great idea to our CAO. I truly believe that, as Angela, our special events coordinator, said, it's going to be different for Christmas. It doesn't mean we still can't have a Christmas. And as a result of that, I'm totally in support of that initiative. Thank you.
So we will put that you are moving this motion. And can I have a seconder, please? You want to comment? Did you want to second it or? Oh, okay. And Councillor Foster will second that motion, and you have something to add.
Yeah, I do, Your Worship. And I have nothing but praise for our staff and what they do all year long. And so the idea of providing a lunch for them is really the least we can do. Well, and providing a safe workplace, but we're doing that now. What I guess my only thought is, and I don't know what the budget is for that, for the town usual Christmas event, which is a somewhat more elaborate fare than perhaps a department lunch. And so I would ask that staff consider that when they've figured out what they can do and catered it locally and done all that kind of good stuff, that if there are excess funds, which I suspect there might be from the budget, I'm not sure because we don't know those numbers, but if there is, I would consider that we use that excess funds as a contribution to the food bank. You know, and again, I don't know what the budget is. Let's say it's $1,000. I'm making up numbers. It's $1,000. We spend $950. Well, we consider doing an extra contribution to the food bank because other people will be suffering through Christmas as well.
Okay, thank you. We'll leave that with staff to work those details out.
Still second.
Okay, Councillor Belanger?
Yes, I would, just on that comment, I would say that the turnout at luncheons is probably going to be significantly higher than the annual Christmas party for lots of reasons. So I certainly don't have a problem if the entire funds are allocated. And just to remind the public is that many of the people that continue to provide the services that we require are essential workers, and is risk involved in doing that job, and I think it's very appropriate to show our appreciation. Thank you.
And these lunches will be done with COVID rules in mind and following all of that. So if there's nothing else, I've read the motion. All those in favor? And that is carried. Thank you. Next is community announcements. We will start with Councillor Watson.
Thank you, Your Worship. I had the pleasure of attending the grand opening and Customer Appreciation Day for Twisted Indian Wraps on 45th Street. Excellent store, and the food is tremendous. I'll be attending my regular NVCA meeting this week and still working with residents navigating the permit process. Attended the Wasaga Beach Builders Association annual general meeting and the election of their board of directors, and they have decided, like I'm sure many organizations in town, to support both the food bank. They're going to do a fundraiser for the food bank and the Canettes toy drive this year. As a proud Rotarian, a Wasaga Beach Rotarian for 35 years now, I have about 4 things to mention with our Rotary Club. They just held their 22nd anniversary Corvette draw. Totally sold out this year. They went online due to COVID. They adapted very quickly. They sold 22,000 tickets plus. They raised $90,000 through the draw this year, which is going to support 17 local charities. And over the 22 years, Wasaga Beach Rotary has raised approximately $860,000, which has been distributed out to charities over those years. And I would think by the time we get to our 25th anniversary, we're going to break the $1 million mark. So very proud of Wasaga Beach Rotary. I attended the Remembrance Day ceremonies here at the Cenotaph, and Rotary partnered with the town of Wasaga Beach to unveil, I think it's 4 new banners honoring our veterans at that. So that was a very nice partnership and collaboration with the Rotary Club. And Rotary just this week continued a long tradition of inviting our political leaders, our members of parliaments, our members of provincial parliament, and the mayors of this municipality to speak to Rotarians who are business leaders in the community. And the mayor spoke this week to give an update on council activities. Mayor Bifolchi spoke. It was a Rotary Zoom meeting, and we had a little twist this year that was added, where some members of the public attended and asked questions of the mayor through the Rotary president, as there was over 30 participants, and it was the most efficient way of channeling the questions to the mayor. And part of the public that attended was the president and vice president of the Wasaga Ratepayers Association. The mayor was asked about 6 fairly tough questions. The president of Rotary actually referred to them as hard-hitting questions. And she answered them all very, very well. And all the participants acknowledged and thanked her at that meeting. So it went very well. And then Rotary returned to the regular business of a Rotary meeting, because this essentially was just a Rotary meeting. And the fourth thing was Rotary was given a big shout out on CNN cable news this week from Mr. Bill Gates, who was talking about pandemic diseases, which of course he works on and contributes greatly to. And Rotary International was commended for their work with trying to eradicate polio throughout the world. So that was a feather in the cap for there. And Rotary is certainly living up to their motto, or it's called the 4-way test. And it is essentially, is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? And is it beneficial to all concerned? Thank you, Rotary.
Thank you. Councillor Kenny.
Thank you, Worship. I was lucky enough to attend the Community Policing Committee meeting in November, along with Councillor Wells. Their next meeting will be in January, the 3rd Monday. Just another shout out to people around Christmas. It's about a month away. Well, it is a month away, but I just want to remind people to enjoy themselves. But also, please shop and enjoy with family responsibly because of the COVID situation we're in now. And Your Worship, I just want to hit on a sad item. The death of Constable Mark Howling of Little Current Detachment, who was killed on the 19th of November. I just want to reach out to my brothers and sisters at those detachments, and especially at Little Current Detachment, and with a heartfelt sorrow to his family and to his 4 children. Thank you, Worship.
Thank you, Councillor. Deputy Mayor Bray.
Thank you. It continues to be busy despite a new way of doing business. This month I had attended a virtual tourism conference. There was a park dedication for the Wasaga Beach Park that has been renamed for the Chase family, whose father, Cyril Chase, had donated that park to the town probably 30 plus years ago. So it was nice to actually see that and celebrate with the family that it is now known as Chase Park. Again, Remembrance Day, a very different ceremony without the residents and the youth, because it's always nice to see the Cubs and the Scouts and the Brownies laying wreaths. But the new banners look great on Main Street. I had my flu shot. If you haven't had yours, I encourage you to do so. Also took place in the Wasaga Beach Economic Development Study. If you haven't yet done this, please do. Let's Talk Wasaga Beach is our town's engagement site. Right now there's things on the economic development strategy, whether you are pro or not so pro for backyard chickens. There's a sign bylaw review and a bunch of other things where you have an opportunity to engage with the town. So reaching out to residents and asking them to please share their opinions. I've been busy with the Wasaga Beach Library Rec Center Steering Group. So that project is moving forward, very, very exciting. And as a member of County Council, we approved yesterday the 2021 budget at 0%. So that was good news. It was reported on the news last night. And this week, again, it's exciting to see the resilience of the community and the creativity of people. So I know the Chamber of Commerce has their virtual holiday event this Thursday. It's very different, but we'll all get together over Zoom. We have been delivered packages to open in front of your Zoom camera, so I'm not sure what's in it, but look forward to celebrating with the Chamber. Women in Business is doing something similar a week later, where you actually pick up your dinner at a local establishment, take it home. You can actually eat with people via Zoom. And then a little later on, I think there's a craft project. So really, excited to see that organizations are kind of reinventing how they can celebrate with their members and keep things moving forward in these difficult times. So stay safe, and thank you.
And no temptation to look in the bag? No, I'm not one of those. Oh, okay. Councillor Belanger.
Thank you, Mayor Byfolchi. Like other members of council, I attended the Twist and Indian Wrap Customer Appreciation, the Chase Family Park dedication, and the Remembrance Day ceremony. And under the circumstances, I think Angela left, but Angela and Candace did a great job of preparing that. It was very well done. Also had my flu shot. Distributed about 800 surgical masks that were donated by Canadian Tire, and they went to primarily the food bank, Georgian Triangle Hospice, and also to Waterside Retirement Home Lodge. Couple of things coming up very quickly is I will be participating with the Salvation Army Kettles again this year. They're going to have, for the first time in Wasaga Beach, a tap option, so you don't have to do cash. You can just keep tapping away, $5 each time. And this time I got all my shifts at the LCBO, because you can really hear the Christmas music in between the two doors, and I like to dance while I'm collecting money. So, and finally, I will be meeting with the Economic Development Strategy Consultant tomorrow, and they were allocating 45 minutes. I asked for 2 hours, so it should be a pretty good meeting. So that's everything. Thank you.
Well, you definitely made us all giggle with that one. Now we're all picturing you dancing for money, but Councillor Foster.
I got nothing after that. No, I've been dealing with several calls and emails from both residents and businesses recently. I was at the park, the Chase Park dedication, and due to some ongoing medical issues within my household, I am not going to be attending ribbon cuttings, etc., going forward until such time as we're all safe. But I am attending other meetings. I was at the the South Georgian Bay Community Health Center. It should be mentioned that we got approval as an Ontario health team in the region, and more information will be coming out on that shortly. When we got talking about COVID, I did send a little blurb to the mayor and I think to the CAO about Dr. Foster, one of my nephews, and one actually is the head of ICU in Kelowna, BC, and the other one is the chief COVID doctor in Steinbeck, Manitoba. So for those who don't know, Steinbeck is a town of about 15,300 people, a little smaller than Wasaga Beach on the outskirts of Winnipeg. They have actively 335 plus cases of COVID right now. Paul, my nephew, was dealing with 15 to 18 COVID patients a day. And his girlfriend, who's a surgeon, is actually not doing surgery now. She's been brought into the regular rotation because they've canceled all surgery. Steinbeck is a town that made the national news for not having anti-mask protests. So 15,300 people, 330 plus with COVID. It's not a big, and their head COVID doctor, who was dealing with 15 to 18 COVID patients a day, is now out of action for a few weeks. He's fine. But he did describe it quite like it was a worse flu. So for those who choose to ignore mask and social distancing and the other protocols, you're not only doing so at your own risk, you're doing it at the risk to individuals. And I do think we can't hit this home hard enough that we have to pay attention. If we don't, for the small businesses, like George was saying, who are suffering, absolutely use them locally, get their takeout meals and do grocery pickup, because if we stay healthy, we'll be able to continue to shop and ramp up when COVID is behind us. But if we don't, we're doing so at our own peril. So I hate to be doom and gloom on all this, so I'll end it on a happy note. We're heading into Christmas. Have a great time with your family. Bye.
Okay, thank you. I also attended some of the community events that have already been mentioned, as well as several arena and library meetings, COVID command team meetings, county council. We welcomed several new staff over the past month to our team. As the chair of the regional government review for the county, we had a meeting there last week. Chamber meeting, WDI meeting, chair of the Affordable Housing Advisory Committee, we had a meeting as well. And as already mentioned, the Rotary on Monday, which I was happy to be part of that. So that is my report. And we will move on to notices of motion. I don't believe we have any. Motions where notices being previously given, none. Calling of committee meetings, Mr. CAL.
Thank you, Worship. Members of Council, December is a busy month for a number of reasons, and one of those reasons is that Council has 4 meetings in the month of December. The first meeting is a committee of the whole as Budget Committee on December 3rd at 9 a.m. in the Council Chamber. Our regular coordinated committee is at 9 a.m. on December 10th, also in the Council Chamber. Our public meeting presentation dealing with the proposed 2021 budget, 4-year capital and 10-year capital forecast is scheduled for Tuesday, December 15th at 7 p.m. And members of council will be here in the council chamber, but as all our meetings will be broadcast live. Our council meeting for the month of December is Tuesday, December 22nd at 9 a.m. in the council chamber. And we are closing at noon on the 24th, and we'll be closed for that week between the 24th and January 3rd, I believe. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to bylaws, if I could have a mover and seconder, please. Councillor Kinney, Councillor Foster. Resolved that the following bylaws be received and be deemed to have been read a first, second, and third time, passed and numbered as follows. 2020-109, a bylaw to authorize the execution of the transfer payment agreement for the Investing in Canada Infrastructure Program, ICIP, public transit stream between Her Majesty the Queen in Right of the Province of Ontario, represented by the Minister of Transportation for the Province of Ontario and the town of Wasaga Beach. 2020-110, a bylaw to authorize the execution of an extension of the tower lease agreement with Bell Mobility Incorporated for the tower located at 3050 Mosley Street. 2020-111, a bylaw to amend bylaw 2013-86, section 3.6.06, being a policy for employee development and service recognition. 2020-112, a bylaw to adopt an encroachment policy and to repeal bylaw 2013-96 and bylaw 2019-114. 2020-113, a bylaw to appoint a building inspector for the town of Wasaga Beach, Bill Pluis. 2020-114, a bylaw to amend bylaw 2019-34, being a bylaw to approve a standard lease. 2020-115, a bylaw to authorize the execution of lease agreements. 2020-116, a bylaw to authorize the entering into of an agreement with the Child Advocacy Centre of Simcoe, Muskoka to utilize the community policing office at 544 River Road West. And 2020-117, a bylaw to authorize a memorandum of understanding between the town of Wasaga Beach and 3 family physicians. Is there any discussion on any of this? All those in favor? That is carried. Next, we'll be moving into closed session. If I could have a mover and seconder for that, please. Councillor Foster, Councillor Boulanger. Resolved that pursuant to section 239(2)A, C, and I of the Municipal Act 2001 as amended, the next portion of the November 25th, 2020 regular council meeting will move into closed session to discuss the security of the property of the municipality or local board, a pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality or local board, and a trade secret or scientific, technical, commercial, financial, or labor relations information supplied in confidence to the municipality or local board, which, if disclosed, could reasonably be expected to prejudice significantly the competitive position or interfere significantly with the contractual or other negotiations of a person, group of persons, or organization. All those in favor? And that is carried. So we'll just take 5 minutes while we shut off cameras and things, and we'll come back. I'm also needing new glasses. Okay, we're now back in open session. If I can have a mover and seconder for item 15.1. Councillor Kinney. Councillor Belanger. The council confirmed the direction provided to the CAO in closed session pertaining to lease matters. All those in favor? And that is carried. The next item, if I could have a mover and seconder, please. Councillor Kinney, Deputy Mayor Bray. The council confirmed the direction provided to the clerk in closed session pertaining to a potential legal matter. Whereas under Section 229 of the Municipal Act 2001, the Chief Administrative Officer, CAO, of a municipality is responsible to exercise general control and management of the affairs of the municipality for the purpose of ensuring the efficient and effective operations of the municipality. And whereas Mr. Vadabancourt has carried out his responsibilities with the utmost integrity, adhering to federal, provincial, and municipal legislation and policies adopted by council, including the Employee Code of Conduct. And whereas Mr. Vadabancourt has worked for the town of Wasaga Beach in his capacity for 15 years, has responsibly served 5 different Wasaga Beach municipal councils, comprised of 3 different mayors, and conscientiously and diligently leads a team of more than 130 skilled employees who deliver municipal services for the residents of Wasaga Beach. And whereas the town has a responsibility to defend itself and town employees when people make false attacks of corruption about the town and town employees, as such statements are harmful to the town and the reputation of its staff. And whereas Mr. Giorgio Mamaliti has made significant false attacks to the public about Mr. Vadabancourt, which are considered harmful to his professional reputation, and whereas these false attacks to the public would warrant a response, now therefore be it resolved that the Council of the Town of Wasaga Beach directs staff to 1. Issue public statements vigorously replying to and refuting the false attacks made by Mr. Mamaliti to the public about Mr. Vadabancourt, and 2. Issue public statements to vigorously reply to and refute each and every time false attacks are made publicly about Mr. Vadabancourt or any Town of Wasaga Beach staff member. All those in favor? And that is carried. I can have a mover and seconder for item 15.3, please. Deputy Mayor Bray, Councillor Watson. The council confirmed the direction provided to the CAO in closed session pertaining to a property matter. All those in favor? And that is carried. Mover and seconder for external board minutes. Councillor Foster. Councillor Kinney. The council received the closed session external board meeting minutes for information. All those in favor? That is carried. And our closed session minutes for council meetings, Deputy Mayor Bray, Councillor Kinney. Resolved that council received the following closed session reports as circulated and approves all actions contained therein. Regular meeting of council, October 29th, 2020, closed session minutes. Special meeting of council, November 12th, 2020, closed session minutes. Coordinated committee, November 12th, 2020, closed session minutes. Committee of the whole budget, November 12th, 2020, closed session minutes. All those in favor? That is carried. And mover and seconder for the confirmatory bylaw. Councillor Kinney, Deputy Mayor Bray. 2020-118, a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the Council of the Corporation of the Town of Wasaga Beach at its regular meeting held Wednesday, November 25th, 2020. Resolved that a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the Council of the Corporation of the Town of Wasaga Beach at its regular meeting held Wednesday, November 25th, 2020 be received and be deemed to be read a first, a second, and third time, passed in number 2020-118. All those in favor? That is carried, and we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.